Hello everyone, welcome to another Outlook session. It's Alan right here. Um, Today we're going to be looking at DXY, Euro USD, GBP USD, gold, and US oil. But before I go on, I'd just like to talk about last week's Outlook. If you are yet to watch it, you can just watch it to get an insight of what the market is actually doing. Now, for those that followed the outlook of last week, you will see how it played out accurately. Last week played out very nicely. And that's something that we are always looking out for. We want to see market respect each and every one of those areas where we are marked up, and so we can be profitable in the long run in the market. So before we jump into the outlook today, one thing you will have to do, click on that subscribe button there, and also like and share all my contents so that I can be encouraged to keep posting good contents like this. Okay, so let's move into the outlook for today and see what the market holds for us. So we're going to be starting with DXY. DXY remains pretty bullish overall in the past few weeks. Now, last week I was anticipating that the market would come as high as 111.000, but unfortunately we didn't touch 111.00, but we came very close to it. Now, if we look here, this is the monthly time frame. We can actually adjust that and bring it to the bottom of this week here. Yeah, now we are just below the week. Now, bringing it to the bottom of the week, we still barely touched it. That's about 110.873. Now, I would just like to round it up to the next psychological level. Let's see. So let's say 111.500. Oh, that's too deep. Okay, we'll leave it at 111.8. Yeah, 110.8. Perfect. Around 110.800 psychological level, price tapped into it. But if you look here, there's a zone I marked up with a red rectangle, with a pink rectangle. That signifies a supply zone. That's a weekly supply zone that price is currently reacting from. So price tapped at that zone and we can see a reaction from that point. So let's move to the weekly to see this clearly. So this is that supply zone that we marked off here. This is it somewhere here. Can be adjusted to catch this. This is the supply zone here. Now price reacted off this supply zone and we saw a push to the downside, which happened I think around Friday or so. But before that happened, we finally broke this high that we were talking about last week. We're looking at this weekly high and waiting for it to be properly broken before we can expect to do any other thing. So just looking at DXY now, we can see that DXY is still pretty bullish. The structure is completely bullish. But since we've tapped into a key level here, we may see a push to the downside, then maybe a sell continuation to the upside. But while we are expecting that, there are some levels that I have my eyes on where price may possibly react from. So I have this marked here. Let me change the color so it can be clear. Yes, I have a zone marked up here where price can actually come back into properly, then bounce upwards, or we may see a deep retracement as low as this point before a push back to the upside. Let's see it on the daily time frame. Let's get some clarity on this. All right, so we can see that the retracement is already happening on the daily time frame after we tapped into the higher time frame supply zone, but price has failed to tap into this first zone yet. So I want to see price come back into this zone, then I'll see how price will react, then I possibly look for long opportunities to the upside. Or I have other zones marked up here, other demand zones. This is one and this is another here. So as long as price comes to any of these and I see any bullish order flow, I would look for longs on the dollar. The only reason why my bias is going to change is if I see this weekly low taken out. When I see this weekly low taken out, that's when I would begin to expect lower prices in the dollar. But for now, the structure remains heavily bullish. It remains heavily bullish. All right, so let's move to Euro USD monthly time frame. Now, Euro USD also just behaving like dollars, tapped into a key level. We have a demand level here, and we have seen the reaction this month from that key level. Now, with this lead to price coming as high as this point You know, we had this level we broke. Are we going to see price come this high before it push to the downside? That I cannot tell. Let's say something to this zone before it push. That we cannot tell for now. We can't tell. All we're going to be doing is following the order flow. We're going to be looking at market structure and trading it based on that. But we should take note that price is currently in a key level and we are seeing a reaction on the monthly time frame from that level. The month is still young, so let's see how it goes. Let's drive down to the weekly time frame to see. Yeah, last week we saw a bullish engulfing pattern, but this is not still yet a reason for me to be going long overall on Euro USD. I still see it as a short-term push to the upside. Reason is that I want to see this weekly high taken first before we expect a complete reversal of this trend. Now let's push to the daily to see it clearly. Let's build a structure here. Sorry. Oh, that's okay. Now coming to the daily time frame, we can see that we've been making lower highs and lower lows. The structure is completely bearish. Now we broke this low here. We broke this low and tapped into this key zone, this weekly key zone. Now I see this as a retracement currently happening because we have some previously unmitigated zone. For example, we have a supply here. Now I've marked up this supply, expecting price to come back into it. Then possibly once I see a sell signal from here, I may look for sales back to this low. Also, I have other confluences that aligns with that. We can see my fib level drawn out to the side here. Let me push it. Now, if we extend this from this daily high down to the daily low, we can see this zone which I have marked up is actually a key level on the Fibonacci, which price can actually react from. Also, if you look here, I still have another zone marked up where price can still push back into. I have one here. I have this zone here. Price can still come as high as this zone before we see a sell. So what I'll be expecting to see is another push into this zone, then possibly a sell to the downside, or we can see a push this high before a sell to the downside. So basically what I'm going to be looking out for is order flow. I'll be watching how market is moving and the structures market is forming. So since we have these key zones marked up from the daily time frame, let's push down to the 4 hours to see the setups that we can get during the week. So here on the 4 hours time frame, price has not yet tapped into this daily supply zone that I marked here, but we can see that we are beginning to break structures to the upside. We can see that the order flow is changing into a bullish and uptrend here. If you see at this point, we broke this high and we have broken another high here, and also this here, I'll take this as another high. We've broken 3 highs already. Having broken these highs, we have created some demands which are yet to be unmitigated. So I have one marked up here. Now this is our current H4 low and our H4 high. So we have this whole point which is actually a new demand created. So I want to see how price comes back into it. Then if I see buy opportunities, I'm going to look for longs to this point, and that's where I'm going to be stopping. I have this trend line that I drew from the daily. I didn't talk about it. Let's look at it again. Now going back to the daily time frame, this is just to build extra confluences. We can see we've had multiple touches and it may still hold. So let's see how price reacts here. But one of the rule of thumbs of trading trend line is that the more touches on the trend line, the weaker it gets. But that's something for another day though. But for now, we know that price can come back there. We may see little manipulation to push up here before it sells to the downside, but overall we're just going to be following the order flow. So opening of the market possibly Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to be looking for long. I'm going to be looking for long. If price comes back into this H4 supply and if it holds, I'll be looking for longs to take out this H4 high. Then from this point, I'll be very careful looking to see if we experience a change of character. Then I'll be looking for shorts to the downside. So like I said, shorts from here or this other zone marked up here. Now let's move to GBP USD. All right, this is GBP USD monthly time frame as well. Okay, we'll come to this later. We still have this zone marked up here. Price has not yet come into it. This is a monthly demand zone here. So I have this monthly demand zone marked up at about 1.07500. Last week we made mention that price was going to push down to as low as 1.14500, and did it very, very clearly. We can see it, price tapped into 1.14500 nicely. So if we move downwards, this particular zone here is actually another demand zone. This is a weekly demand zone, but it is even clearer on the daily time frame. So this weekly demand zone is where price actually is now. Price tapped into that zone, and if we slide lower, you will see that that area is actually holding at the moment. Now this is that zone marked up. Let me show you on the daily. Now you can see clearly that it is a good weekly demand zone there. Now since it is acting as a demand zone, I won't see that point as a point where I'll be looking for overall change in the direction of the trend yet. But yes, it can lead to some push to the upside. We have some unmitigated zones here. Now let's look at these unmitigated zones from the weekly time frame first. Now, if we look at this trend, which is completely bearish, we broke this low here. Upon the break of this low, price is yet to retrace back to that zone. So possibly this may lead to a retracement into one of these zones. So we can see maybe a push to the upside, maybe a reaction from here then to the downside, or it may even go this high to the downside, or back to this point to the downside. Those are the 3 points I'm going to be looking at for a reaction to the upside. Here, and this extreme supply there. Now let's see them clearly on the lower time frame. Now this is the daily time frame. These are the zones I've marked up. Now this first zone here is a hidden supply zone, so price may possibly come into it. We may see a buy to this point, then a sell continuation to the downside. That demand zone, that supply zone rather, also aligns with this major supply zone that I have to the top here. So possibly price may still extend into this zone. While we are looking out for that, I have another zone marked up here at about 1.2100 level. So price can either come to tap into one of these levels, then we can expect a reversal to the downside. But for now, we're just going to be following the other flow. So let's go to the daily time frame to see if we can find any setup. So I forgot to mention something on DXY. Let me quickly push back there. Now, if you see DXY on the 4 hours time frame, I can see a head and shoulders pattern that has formed. That head and shoulders pattern is forming from this key zone here. It has been broken. We've broken it. So price may go back to retest the neckline before we come back to bounce into this area. So that retest of the neckline is what I will be expecting to give us our long entries on Euro USD and possibly GBP USD. So that's by the way. Let's go back to GBP USD. On GBP USD too, I can see a head and shoulder, an inverse head and shoulders pattern that has formed here. So we formed the left shoulder, the head. We have yet to form a clear right shoulder. Now this right shoulder is also going to coincide with this level. Let's take this off. It's also going to coincide with this 4 hours demand zone that I have marked here, this 4 hours demand zone. Now you can see that we are clearly breaking structures to the upside. Now this is a clear break of structure that has happened here, and this demand zone has been created. So what I'll be expecting to see is a push into this demand zone, then possibly a push back into this hidden supply. So that's going to be the first trade I'll be looking for within the week. If I see a push back into this H4 demand zone, I'll see how price reacts here. If I see a buy signal, I'll take a long position back into this hidden supply or even higher. So basically what we're going to be doing is following the other flow. We'll be trading based on the other flow, but we'll have these areas in mind rather. So when price comes back to this hidden supply, we take our profits and wait to see what happens there. If price pushes higher, we wait, and it depends on how price keeps going higher, then we know what to do. But basically just follow the market structure and follow the order flow. So let's move to gold. All right, so gold. This zone is still holding very strongly, as we can see here. Last week we talked about it being a very strong support. See, it's still acting as a support, and still a support. Price has tapped into it this month, and we can see a rejection currently happening there. So now looking at it clearly on the lower time frame, on the weekly time frame, Price tapped into it, rejected. Last week also we had an indecision candle, so we don't really know what's happening here. Remember, I said gold is actually at a key level and we should be very careful what we do at this level. Now, I also said if price breaks below this zone and retest, I'm going to short back to this zone. But if I don't see a clear break of this zone, I'm going to be very careful what I'm doing on gold at the moment. All right, so we have our weekly supply zone, the last supply zone marked up here. Price tapped into it, bounced back into this demand zone, and we close with an indecision candle as at last week. So let's see clearly on this time frame what is going on gold. This is the daily time frame. All right, so looking at gold tapped into this zone, began to break structures to the downside again. Now we have broken below this low here, and a supply zone was created before the break below that low. Now price tapped into that supply zone and we can see some rejections from the upside. So could this lead to a sell on gold? Let's see it clearly on the 4 hours time frame if we should be targeting a sell on gold at the moment. But basically, just looking at this structure here, you can tell that gold is still bearish because this is our last high here and this high is still intact. Until this high is taken out, I would still be focusing on shorts on gold. Now this is the overall high. This is our weekly high. It is also acting as our daily high. If I see this high taken out overall, then I would know that completely the trend is changing from an overall downtrend into an uptrend. But for now, it still looks bearish. Okay, let's slide lower to see to hunt for setups. Now this is what I can see currently on gold. Gold tapped into a supply zone here, and we've seen a reaction to we saw a reaction from there, pushed back there, reacted again, and currently we pushed there and still reacted. But I want to see this as liquidity resting below this trend line. This is trend line liquidity resting here. This supply zone is still holding intact. It has not been broken through yet. So if I see a change of character from any of these zones, I'm still going to be looking for sells to the downside. But for now, I would be very careful. I want to see clear break of structures. I want to see clear change of characters on the 4 hours time frame, at least 1 hour before I'll be doing anything on gold. I really want to be very clear before we do anything on gold. But so far the structure is still bearish. This H4 high is still intact. As long as this high remains intact, the overall bias for now remains bearish. So let's move to US oil. All right, so this is another very beautiful trade that played out last week. Last week I mentioned that price was going to push as low as 83.5 level or lower. We can see price tapped 83.5 level, and I think it even tapped on 82 level. We're going to find out shortly. But currently price has come into a previous resistance which can now act as support, and we can see that we are experiencing some rejection from that zone now. This zone is currently a key level that we should be careful of. So now let's go back to the 4 hours time frame, no, weekly time frame I mean. So we have this key zone marked up here. Last week also closed as an indecision candle here on US oil. But even at that, just looking from the top here, we had this S&D flip here, which is a supply and demand flip. Price flipped here, came back to retest this supply here, and we experienced this massive sell to the downside. But price is currently in this key zone. Although market is still looking bearish, it is still the order flow is still heavily bearish. So with this order flow, if we continue to see lower highs and lower lows, we'll continue to look for sell opportunities, but we'll bear in mind that we are actually at the key zone and we want to be really careful what we do here. So let's see if there's any setup for us on the daily time frame. Okay, so US oil daily time frame, we have two zones marked up here. Now this was our daily high. We broke down to the downside. We took out this low here. Is a clean break of structure that has happened. Now before the break of structure, a supply zone was formed here. So this is a clear supply zone marked up here. Now I want to see how price is going to react from here. Possibly we may see a sell to take out this low from this point, but I still have this extreme here as well. price can decide to push into this extreme, and from this extreme, if I see a sell signal, I'll still be looking for short to the downside. But the moment this daily high is taken out, my bias changes. Because we are already at a key zone. But as long as this daily high remains intact, I would only be looking for sell opportunities for now. That's overall trend. That does not mean you can't take short-term longs if you see them, but it requires some level of expertise and experience. So please, newbie traders, trade the trend, follow the trend alone. So let's see 4 hours time frame. Okay, nothing much here, just key zones marked up. You can just take note of all of these key zones. Price is currently at this supply here. This is a supply. Now we want to see if we're going to experience a change of character from there. Then we can decide to look for a sell to the downside. That supply also aligns with this higher time frame supply we have here. Then even within this other extreme supply, we have this zone, this and this marked up. One of these zones can be where price can react from. So overall, we just want to keep watching out what's going on, then trade based on this analysis. So that's going to be it for today. We'll be looking at the market in the course of the week, and I'll be sending out updates based on what has changed in the market. Do not forget to click on that subscribe button, and don't forget to like and also comment and share these videos with your friends and loved ones. Till I come your way again, peace.